Okay, so Will Anderson was on Texans All Access. First question they asked him was just his thoughts on winning the Defensive Rookie of the Year.
Man, it was just a blessing, man, to share that moment with all those guys. Me and CJ came in this thing together, man. We both got drafted 2 and 3, and to share that moment with him and his family and my family to be there, man, and Coach Ryan's and the McNairs and Nick and Andre and his people, man. It was just a blessing, man. It's just all honor to God, man, and just being able to be in there and be in that setting, but also just see so many other great athletes and how they maneuver around everything and how they are.
Man, he's such a good kid. Oh man, if I had a son, I'm glad I don't have a son because he wouldn't be like Will Anderson. He'd be more like me. And I'd be like, hey guys, so wipe that scowl off your face, you grumpy SOB, and be more like Will Anderson. My God. Will Anderson and his eagerness to be a sponge to older veteran players is just so cool. Like everything about him, like so many guys that go in the first round could let it go to his head or could start thinking he's better than he is or anything, but he just wants to soak it all in. And that part was really cool to see at those awards where you had Cal and Hannah, but you also had Andre Johnson was in town for it. You've got CJ, you've got D'Amico, you've got Will Anderson and his family. It is a like I almost want to say it's like a high school environment because college, it's a different environment than in the NFL. The one thing that's different though is that you do have like 400,000 people on the team itself and like 297 trainers and like it's just a big operation. NFL teams are smaller, but there's more turnover and guys are adults and there's different distractions. But I do think that when you get your core nucleus, there's something about like Tank and I need Nico in there and Will and CJ that feels like a high school team almost. And that's pretty cool. It's I'm jealous. I'm honestly jealous of these guys that they've been able to maintain almost like a purity about them. Like they don't seem like calloused guys. Like the kind of guy they don't seem like the kind of guys that Nick Saban was talking about. Nick Saban's talking about how all these guys will only talk about money and what are their opportunities and everything like that. And like I don't know, we might have just grabbed the last little batch of wholesome college football players to exist. Thank God. Next question was about how did last season evolve for him as a rookie?
I mean, like from the first game from Baltimore, it was most definitely a learning lesson. But like sometimes it came a little natural, but then like when teams start studying you and start game planning for you and things like that, I think that's just one thing that I have to do a really good job of adjusting to and not getting so frustrated because a lot of time when a team would start to game plan for me and stuff like that or chip me or double me and stuff like I would get really frustrated and really get down on myself. But I had to take accountability to be like, look, this is going to happen. So like, how can we take that next step? So this offseason, like that's really something that I'm gonna focus with my pass rush is like taking that next step in that area of my game and not getting frustrated with myself.
Okay, so for those of you just joining us, Will Anderson is on Texans All Access talking to John Harris and Mark Vandermeer. Uh, him talking about his frustration and getting chipped, getting double teamed, all that stuff. You could see the frustration when he was mic'd up early in the season too. With some sideline audio, you could see when he would get frustrated about it. The thing about Will Anderson is like he never turns that frustration into a Stephon Diggs temper tantrum or something like that. It's just it's inward, he's not blaming anybody else. But the cool thing was that over the second half of the season, two things happened. One was he started to anticipate chip blocks a lot better. A couple of his sacks at the end of the year, they were masterful in that he anticipated the chip block, ducked his arm under the chip block, then finished rushing the offensive tackle. That takes a lot of timing and anticipation and understanding of what's happening. So that was really cool. But then the other part of it was when he talked about it in his final press conference about how just it's nice to see all those stats about how you're getting double teamed a lot and the ESPN win rate and pressures and all that. But he said at the end of the day, you got to get sacks. Like you have to. Like you got to get the quarterback down. That's if you're gonna be recognized as a pass rusher. Yeah, QB pressures are nice, but the sacks are what people pay attention to, and that's what has the largest impact in the game. You can have some QB pressures that end up in an interception, and that's awesome. But on average, a chance for a sack and a strip sack turnover. Like those are the things that on average have a much bigger impact on the game. And over time, you just got to start getting those sacks. And he realized like he was close, but he needed to fix a few things. So that part of it was really cool. Will Anderson talking to Texans All Access. He was asked about which moment from last season sticks out for him.
I would say the playoff game against the Browns. Just as a team, man, it was awesome to see the city. It was awesome to see the fans, the lights, everything like that. And the energy on the sidelines was just going crazy, man. That's the type of brand that we want to have every game, throughout the building, everybody. And then just the first game, that's like my first sack against Lamar. Yep. So that's one to remember.
Yeah, I almost feel bad for him that he got that first sack right off the bat. And had a really nice rush versus the right tackle. I'm blanking on his name right now for the Ravens. He was actually getting held, and he just used it to bend it around back into a sack. And then he kind of had a dry spell there for a while. But the atmosphere, and I think CJ and Will, kind of like gently nudging the fans to get into it. I was nervous about that at first. It's almost like, like when you throw a party and there's like a little part of you in the back of your brain where you just wonder like, oh crap, what if nobody comes? What if I'm not popular and nobody comes? I think it's a testament to just how damn confident CJ Stroud and Will Anderson are, that they can basically tell the fans, hey guys, why don't you come out a little earlier? Okay. It's just come on in. And people did it. We do the pregame show out there. Sean and I do the pregame show. And towards the end of the season, we really did notice people coming in a lot earlier. That was kind of cool. Back in days of old, there were times where Sean and I felt kind of almost desolate and alone until 1 hour before kickoff. And it wasn't like that this year. So that part of it's been cool, changing the culture. Next, Will Anderson talking to Texans All Access, talked about what it's like playing through an injury or injuries.
Yeah, man, it's all a part of the game. You know what I'm saying? And it's also a mindset. For me, like just being at Bama, but my whole life being in college, all the coaches I have, like, at the end of the day, like it's ultimately your decision. Like either you want to go out there and go play, but it just shows what type of competitor you are, what type of warrior you are. And for me, I stand firm on my faith, knowing that God makes no mistakes. I'm gonna be good when I go out there. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not gonna make anything worse. But I just want to go out there and play for the guys beside me, man, because we put in so much work this whole offseason. Let's just go leave it all on the field.
One of the best lessons that anybody ever taught me, from as far as a veteran player teaching me as a rookie, was when John Yurkovich, who's a guy that got injured, and because he got injured, I ended up starting as a defensive tackle my rookie year, told me that, hey, like almost everybody's going to play injured, but what makes you good in the NFL is how well do you play when you're injured. If you can play up to your same level when you've got injuries, that, if you're out there on the field, figure it out and get it done. And Will Anderson getting those 2 sacks and like 3 QB hits and 12 snaps when he came back in at the end of the year when injured. That was big, and like he's so much of the right kind of stuff. I don't worry about that at all. He was also asked by John Harris and Mark Vandermeer on Texans All Access. Will Anderson asked about what he's like off the field versus on the field.
I think I take myself to that point to like I'm getting ready to go play football. Like I'm getting ready to go play a game that's physical. You're gonna get hit. You got to hit somebody back. And for me, it's just like I don't need anything from anybody. Like it's the fact that somebody's lining up against you and trying to stop you from getting what's yours. And I had a saying all the time in Alabama, like don't be denied what you want. Like go get what you want. And that's my whole mindset. Like this person in front of me is trying to stop me from getting what I want, so I have to go take it. So that's just my mindset and how I get myself ready. Like this person in front of me is really trying to stop me from being the best that I can be.
Yeah. That guy's trying to take something from you. I remember his guy, Chris Zingo, who a college teammate of mine, who went off and played in the CFL, and he would come back and he was psychotic in all the right ways. He was a linebacker, undersized linebacker. But that was one of the things he taught me too, was just like, that guy's trying to take something from you. Like that's your tackle. That's your hit on the QB. Like this learning how to hate the guy in front of you, especially for guys like Will Anderson. It's fun to teach guys how to find that balance. Like hate a guy right before the snap, but then be cool afterwards, but then hate him again. You got to use like unless you're a true psychopath, you got to use a few tricks to do that 17 times a season. plus playoffs. And I feel like Will is all gung ho about that. Will can very much fool himself into looking at that guy as somebody that's trying to keep him from getting what's his. That's why watching movies is good. That's why I like watching any kind of Braveheart or 300 or anything like that. It's just role playing. Everybody goes water. You know what it is Waterboy. Everybody that the Waterboy stuff is not that crazy because I think a lot of guys use stuff like that. It's not obviously in 4K the way it was for the Waterboy. But you figure out ways to get a chip on your shoulder about stuff and kind of bring out that shadow part of yourself that Miss Terry wouldn't even want to know about. So Will Anderson talking to the Texans All Access guys, talking about how he feels about the addition of Danielle Hunter.
Yeah, man, like it was so exciting. I met him at the Pro Bowl, so it's just so crazy. I met him at the Pro Bowl. We chopped it up a little bit, and now we're with the same agency, so we got to eat dinner and everything like that, and really get to know each other a little better. And then when I found out the Texans were signing him, man, I met him up in the office today, and I was just jumping around like a little kid. Like you should have seen me, man. I was literally just jumping up and down, like I was so happy. And I was like, bro, like this is what I wanted right here, man. Like just somebody opposite of me that teams fear. Like I know that's a hard worker, bro. He's physical. He's going to go strike tight ends, and he can rush. Like, I know he's had double-digit sacks since he's been in the league. So, and then just to get an opportunity to learn from him as well, man, that's what I'm most excited about. Like, a vet like that, somebody that's been through, everything, that knows the game. I'm just ready to learn from him as well.
Honestly, I had no idea how much I missed Will Anderson. And it's really been, what's it been? 2 months? It's been 2 months. And since I really heard long extended comments from Will Anderson, if you don't count the awards before the Super Bowl, this guy, it's just infectious. I don't know if I've ever had a teammate quite like Will Anderson. I've had a lot of awesome guys who are really good dudes, but I don't know if I've ever had a potential star player who's also so outwardly focused. Because there's a certain amount of obsessiveness that comes with most great players. They're working on themselves. They're working on their game. And even if they're awesome guys, it's not, there's a limit to how much they can focus outward. Justin Verlander has talked about when he was a younger player, he was kind of just obsessed in one track and maybe wasn't as giving towards his teammates as he is now when he's older. So for like Will Anderson as a young guy like that's had a certain amount of success already as a rookie, it's just really cool to see. I just don't know if I've ever been with a guy quite like that. And I know and I played for some great coaches, but I never had a coach quite like D'Amico. And I'm trying not to get ahead of myself here because I've been through the ringer and I've learned lessons about the NFL, but it's just different. It's just it's really different. I almost feel like an obligation. I feel like an obligation to be sure I don't do anything to screw this up. And somehow, and you might say, Seth, how could you possibly screw it up? I've fucked up a lot of good parties before, okay? To which I might not have been invited. So I just want to treat this with kid gloves because it's something kind of different. Will Anderson talking to Texans All Access. I believe that John Harris asked Will whether pass rushing is more of an art or a science.
I see a little bit for both sides, and I think it's for me, it's the side. So like my left side, that's like my art side, and then my other side, that's like my science side. Right. So like I'm really good on one side of just being crafty, of like I can throw some moves on that side, but on the other side, I have to break it down, like
more technical.
Yeah, more technical. Like okay, this is what you got to do here. So just a feel for it, but I just kind of say it depends on the side that I'm on.
That gets super interesting, and I bet I'm sure a lot of coaches have feelings about this. I mean. There's a couple of things to that. One, some guys are just naturally better on the left or the right, but then there's also the side of, all right, how much of that is nature versus nurture? Because if you're just more naturally comfortable on the left and then you tend to end up playing there and working there more and practicing your moves almost subconsciously at times, or just when you're walking through the mall and hitting pass rushes on passerbys and all that stuff, you might favor going from the left. So a lot of it on the right side where it might feel more analytical to him, I'm guessing it's just because he doesn't have the muscle memory over there, and he might just not naturally be as comfortable. If you wrestled in high school, you know this too. Like if you're right-handed, you're better on your right than on your left, and you got to really try to get ambidextrous like that. I think that'll be another cool thing that I don't think with Danielle. I'll have to look and see how often Danielle flip-flopped and what have you, or whether he has a side that he prefers on third downs. because Will at times would spend some games predominantly on the left side, but then he started switching up more towards the end of the season. Danielle gets the veteran power of he probably has first dibs on the worst pass blocker right now. Over time, Will Anderson will get to the point where he and Danielle might fight over it, and that's usually a good spot to be in because you've got a lead and you're going in to try to get your sacks. Last question for Will Anderson from the Texans All Access guys is what is the week of prep ahead of a game like for you?
Oh, it's great. I think I learned that skill in high school. Like I would be Friday night. I was watching the game after the game, watching another opponent after the game was over. Like that's how much I love the game of football. So watching film, it was a little different in the league because it's just more detailed.
Yeah.
So I had to Rankins was a great vet for me, man. He helped me out a lot. Like he taught me how to extend how to watch film a little better. But other than that, just taking the notes from him, getting on it, what the tackle is doing, what the running back is doing, what's the quarterback mannerisms, how far is he setting in the pocket. All those things, how many kicks the old tackle's taking. So what's the center doing with the ball? Guards, I'm watching them. So just taking that next step of watching everybody and not just my guy.
Yeah, that's
I really.
He's ahead of the curve. Oh, there's another thing coming up from Will. I don't think I've got that written down. It'll be a surprise for all of us. He's way ahead of the curve. I think that a lot of rookies to be able to focus in on all those things. Now, I don't know if he's got the process down to where he's got the checklist in his mind, but there's when you get to be more and more of a veteran, all those things from the center, you're reading a triangle from the center and the lineman in front of you back to the quarterback and the tailback, and you're picking up all these cues. You get more advanced and you start understanding wide receiver splits and all that stuff. But for him to be cognizant of all that stuff and to be able to take it all in, I get a little bit defensive when I hear or see some people say that, in this defense, they just let the guys go and you play the run on your way to the quarterback. They don't care about screens or draws. Chase Daniel said that, and he was saying it in a complimentary way, but I disagree. D'Amico wants his defensive linemen to be very aggressive. And those defensive ends, because they're lined up in wide nines, they can get after it very aggressively across the line of scrimmage. But he does want them to be completely and totally aware of their run responsibilities. And the ability to be aggressive in both comes with a lot of that pre-snap stuff that Will's talking about. When you start to get a feel for, even if you don't know exactly what play's coming, you might know what plays they won't be running, so you can be more aggressive in a certain direction on the field, or that it's run, that it's pass. I think he's going to start to get a lot of that stuff this year, and that'll be cool to see. The last answer is one that I hadn't written down, so it's either a repeat or it's a surprise for all of us.
I think that was a really great, test for us. I think that showed everybody what you have to do to be able to be prepared for situations like that, taking care of your body, the longevity of the season, everything like that. And I think the plan that Coach D'Amico has, it's an awesome plan. He knows how to get us prepared for a game. So, now we know what to expect. Now we know how to be more detailed in practice. Now we know what it takes to try to have to win those games. We got to get to the quarterback, get better. We got to be dialed in. We can't have a lot of MEs. Everybody got to be taking care of their bodies and stuff like that. So that's the next step, is just everybody, being detailed, more locked in, and taking care of their bodies for the longevity of the season.
Yeah, that's a big one. Convincing young men to take care of their bodies. I went down a rabbit hole because I had this JJ Watt stuff that we're going to play here in a little bit. But I ended up watching a video that I didn't pull for this, but it was him talking to, was it Easy Wachaku? Was that his name? Wachaku? Do you remember on Hard Knocks, JJ talking to Wachaku about his sleep schedule and that he was trying to get to the point where he could sleep for 10 hours per day, and then he goes to bed at 8:30 at night, and Wachaku's looking at him kind of man, realizing just how committed JJ is, and JJ just said the lifestyle sucks, but you gotta, if that's what you're going for, that's what you're going for. I gotta check in with JJ on that and exactly how many hours of sleep he was able to get. And Bregman too, remember? Because Bregman was trying to get 11 hours of sleep a night, and now he's got a kid or two, and it just gets more complicated. The people without children, it's super easy to get 10 to 11 hours of sleep a night. I've never been able to sleep more than 7 hours. If I have to hold myself in bed to stay in bed for longer than 7 hours. So, but I definitely notice a big difference between 6 and 7.